main viewer now, Captain. It appears to have dual control pedals. Plus, it's powered by ROM cartridge. Scan reveals lifelike picture. Plus, stereo sound. Captain, where did that thing come from?
The GX4000 games console from Amstrad. At 99 pounds, where else could it come from?
Hello and welcome to another spoonful of retro gaming sugar with Replay Retro. I'm Matt, and on today's show we take a look at a British-built console that tried to take on the big boys at the end of the 8-bit era with the Amstrad GX4000. Amstrad was founded in 1968 and named after its creator and star of TV's The Apprentice, Sir Alan Sugar. It quickly became well known for producing cut-price electronics using cheaper methods to undercut the main brands, and gained a strong market position despite some products being of notably poor quality. In fact, Lord Sugar once described their first amplifier as the biggest load of rubbish he'd ever seen. Amstrad's computers were particularly popular, especially after buying the rights to Sinclair computers in 1986 and then producing machines under both brands. They also produced a number of IBM-compatible PCs with some success. However, in 1989, the company's profits halved, and decisive action was needed. Sir Alan announced that Amstrad would now produce a new product every month, keeping them at the cutting edge. By now, it was also clear that video games could become a very profitable market, and Amstrad wanted a way in. Seeing that Commodore were planning a consoleized version of their popular Commodore 64 called the C64 GS, they decided to adopt a similar tactic by creating a console version of their upcoming 8-bit CPC 464 Plus, designed by Cliff Lawson. And with that, the GX4000 was born. Released in the UK in September of 1990, the new console went on sale for an impressive £99, and against its 8-bit rivals, the machine's specification seemed equally as impressive. With a Zilog Z80A processor running at 4 MHz, it was quicker than Nintendo's market-leading Nintendo Entertainment System. It also featured 64 KB of RAM, along with 16 KB of VRAM. The system's large palette of 4,096 colours and ability to display 32 on-screen at once made it second only to NEC's significantly more expensive PC Engine, while its sprite and resolution capabilities were well received by the gaming magazines of the time. While its sound capabilities were nothing special, the system also utilised the tried and tested General Instruments AY-3-8912 sound chip, which provided 3-channel stereo sound, and a choice of sockets made the system both flexible and easy to set up. With great capabilities, a low price tag, solid reviews, and a cool case, the GX4000 had a lot going for it at launch. Amstrad even set aside a marketing budget of £20 million to ensure the console got attention. But it struggled to get any real traction, with poor sales compared to its rivals, and by March of 1991 it was already discounted to $79.95. But why did such a big player in the electronics industry fail to get their undoubtedly capable games console off the ground? We'll find out in just a moment, but first, let's take a quick look at the hardware itself and a few of the games. And here is the hardware itself. As you can see, the actual console is very slim, very sleek, and you can see where they were going with that whole futuristic spaceship design. However, unfortunately, it's very hard to be futuristic when you're working with the same kind of beige plastic that we see on so much office equipment. Nonetheless, it is still a good looking system with these interesting grippy type handles here, these raised ventilation areas, and this protruding part at the front, which I can't tell if it's maybe designed to protect the controller ports from having their pins bent, or if that's just a happy coincidence that it facilitates that. On the top of the system, we have the power LED over here, the cartridge flap with springy dust covers here, and the power button here. And when you turn the power button on, you'll see it locks the cartridge flap, preventing you from putting cartridges in and risking damaging them, and of course preventing you also from pulling them out while the system is turned on. You also have a pause button on the console rather than on the controllers, which is similar to the way Sega's Master System worked. And then on the front you can see a large array of connections are available, including from left to right a 3.5mm stereo output jack, which wasn't actually designed for use with headphones and was in fact designed for hooking the system up to your hi-fi amplifier for better sound quality. Quite a cool little thing to include, really. I suppose it could have something to do with the fact that Amstrad did also manufacture amplifiers, so perhaps they were hoping that people would buy one of their amplifiers, or perhaps buy a GX4000 as part of a combined purchase. You also have the Player 1 and Player 2 control ports, which are standard 9-pin jacks, as you would expect of consoles of this era. And in between those you have the analog joystick port, which, as far as I'm aware, the only games which supported the analog joystick actually convert it into a digital signal. So technically there aren't any games that really use it as an analog device, but nonetheless it's quite cool that Amstrad thought to include that, and it shows they really did think this system was going to last. Perhaps they thought some kind of flight simulator game would take really good advantage of this controller port, and as far as I'm aware, neither the Nintendo or the Sega Master System had an analog port. I believe their joysticks were purely digital, so it's really forward thinking of Amstrad to have included this port. Over on the right you have an RJ11 port, which is for auxiliary controllers such as the light gun. And underneath the system, as you would expect to find, you have your usual information labels, as well as 4 rubberized non-slip feet to stop the console from sliding around. On the sides, due to the low profile nature, there's nothing really there. And on the back, we once again find a large array of inputs, or outputs as well. Here is the input for the 11 volt power supply. And just next to that, you see what looks like the input for another power supply, and this was so that you could run the console from an Amstrad monitor as you could with CPC computers. Basically what this means is that if you want to use your GX4000 with a monitor instead of a television, you only need to have the monitor plugged into the mains and then the console plugged into the monitor, so you don't need to have more plug sockets tied up. It's quite a cool little feature, quite a clever thing for Amstrad to have included, although on a console which is probably going to be connected to the TV, it's maybe not so necessary or relevant, but still good that they included it. Of course then you also have the monitor cable to connect to your monitor there. If no point connecting it to the monitor's power if you're not also going to connect it to the video feed of the monitor. You then have a standard universal SCART socket. Really cool that Amstrad chose to use one of those instead of a proprietary connector of any kind, so if you lose it, really easy to replace. You know, you can get these anywhere for very little money and they will connect to most televisions, both new and old. If you haven't, however, got a SCART connector on your TV, chances are you will be able to hook up the console via RF to your TV's tuner and tune it in directly there. For some reason, there is also on the console a sound selector switch, which enables you to mute the system. Not really sure why that's included. I'm pretty confident most TVs would have some kind of volume control or a mute button, but you know, it's there if you want to mute the console's sound. Moving on then to the controller, we can see it's quite a simple design, taking its colour scheme directly from the console itself. It fits into the hand quite nicely thanks to these rounded edges on the front corners. Unlike quite a few of these rectangle designed controllers, it actually is quite comfortable. The D-pad, however, is a bit small for my liking and also a little bit stiff, but it is functional and it does do the job. And then you simply have push buttons 1 and 2 for control of games. You get an alright length of cord, but I wouldn't really call it a great amount. However, again, with this being a standard 9-pin connection, I'm pretty confident that any 9-pin extension cables will allow you to extend this, and so with those being in quite abundant supply on eBay, it's not a problem. The games come in these lovely solid plastic cases which do a good job of protecting them. You can see they're quite tough, and as a result a lot of these have survived, and games with boxes are quite common online. You can see you get the game artwork, plus a nice presentable shelf edge, and then of course information as you would expect on the back. When you open the case, quite a cool feature is that the game pops up and presents itself quite nicely like that. The instructions are then held inside using 4 plastic clips. The cartridge simply pops out of this tray, which keeps it nice and secure. It won't fall out and wriggle about in there like a lot of cases sometimes allow cartridges to do. And the cartridge itself is a neat, small little thing with the details of the game front and back, and they all have a very similar design with this red strip on top, unlike games for other systems where the labels would be completely different. However, no end labels, which obviously we are a fan of end labels, but these cases are tough enough that chances are most of the games you find are going to still have them. So, when you want to play a game, you simply pop the cartridge into the top there, connect the joystick to the port, flip the power button, and you're ready to play RoboCop 2. And here it is then, RoboCop 2. Press fire to start. Can we skip all this? Yeah, find the sludge, got it. Okay, the music's quite cool. And the graphics are very cool. The sprites are very detailed. The whole level is very detailed. Whoa. Very bouncy jumping, very clunky. Okay, so that's my gun. This is actually the second time I've loaded this. The first time I had sound effects but no music. Now I appear to have music but no sound effects. Don't know what to make of that. That guy needs rescuing because he's waving his arms. Is that... Ah, don't fall in the hole. Okay, go. Go. Okay, this is actually a lot harder than it looks. I know I just look like an idiot, but... Oh, millions of pounds worth of crime-fighting robot, and it doesn't know how to get off a frigging moving ledge. If only in the films they'd had moving ledges that they could have used to kill RoboCop. Okay, how hard can it be to get over a frigging ledge? Oh, for the love of God. But yeah, looking at the graphics, it's quite easy to tell why Amstrad thought this would do better than it did. They are really detailed. Obviously, it isn't a touch on 16-bit Mega Drive or Genesis graphics, but it's still very good. Oh my God, why can't I get on the frigging ledge and get across the frigging hole? I think I did better at Back to the Future Part 3 than this. Yes! Okay, don't die now. Don't die now. This is... I'd heard this was very difficult, but my God. I've never known something where just jumping across ledge... Ugh. I've never known something where just jumping across ledges and basic platform timing was difficult. Oh, for the love of God. Well, that was RoboCop 2. It looks like it could be quite cool. But we're not going to find that out. Oh, look at that. RoboCop's dying. So long, Murphy. Next up then, we have Burning Rubber, which was the pack-in game for the GX4000. Really cool soundtrack. I could listen to that quite happily, actually. But we won't. We'll get playing, because that's what we're here to do. What's accelerator going to be? 1 or 2? There's only 2 buttons. Oh no, it's forward. Accelerator's forward. So, there's a thing. Okay, this isn't anything spectacular. I don't like games where you have to press forward to accelerate, because it makes it very difficult to accelerate and steer. And at the end of the day, you have 2 other buttons on the pad, so Why do you have to use the D-pad? I like the sound though as you're passing other cars. It's quite good really, considering the limitations of the sound chip. It's a really good use of the limited sound. Oh, wow, that's a big flip. Oh, that guy's dead. Nope, ready to go. Still fine. Lots of advertising boards there. Advertising Amstrad on the way around. Oh, did I make it? Technically made it. I qualified just 9th position. That crash probably had something to do with that. To be honest, I'm lucky to be alive. But as I was saying, I do like some of the sound effects. The passing cars sounds particularly good, and I like the bong of the countdown. Really good use of the sound chip. The passing sound is really good. Really does get the illusion of passing them. It gets it really well. This game does show off though how stiff and stubborn the D-pad is. Got some random dude's face on a billboard just then. Unless I'm very much mistaken, the sky is getting darker, so it looks like we have some progression on the environment, which is quite cool. There's definitely a dude's face on them billboards. There's some ocean billboards as well. And did I see a special criminal investigation billboard a moment ago? Which was another game. Quite a rare game. I go, yep, there it is, SCI. It's definitely getting darker as well, good progression. All in all, it's a good solid game, nothing to write home about. But for a pack-in title, I would have been quite happy with this, I think. On day one. I'd maybe just adjust the controls though a bit. I'm not a big fan of D-pad accelerating. So last up, as the title screen suggests, it's Pang. Oh, which apparently you don't have to press start, it just launches you straight in. Now I've played Super Pang on obviously the Super Nintendo before, and it's a good game. I like, sorry, I've had my gun jammed by that bee or whatever it is. Aim of the game, pop the bubbles will get smaller, well they'll split just like in Asteroids. You'll get little friends like that crab who will help you. Little power-ups like that clock, which as long as you don't walk into the bubbles, will stop them for you. You can also get a rapid-fire gun like this, which I've just got. And the dynamite, which splits the bubbles into their smallest form, which actually makes the game a lot harder. Because there's too many small bubbles. Ah, just like that. The little crab, as you saw then, pops the bubbles for you to help you. Cool little mid-stage graphic. You can see here on the second level there are some blocks in the middle to divert the course of the bubble. That bee thing is annoying because it jams your gun. Oh, is that a double? Ah, I think that was a multi-fire dealie. And I took the risk and paid with my life. But no, it's a really good game, this Pang. Well, Super Pang is, and this looks pretty good as well. Graphically, how does this compare with Super Pang? Well, obviously Super Pang is a 16-bit game. This is 8-bit, but it's still fairly solid. Oh, I think that's the wall one. Yep, so it builds a wall that will pop the bubbles. Oh, too many small ones. Not going to walk into any of those. Thank you, crab. Obviously, as the game progresses, the puzzles get harder. Is he good or bad? Don't know. Nope. He blocked me. There we go. Third level. Woo! Yeah, it's a really good little
A fast-paced puzzle game is Pang, and one I would definitely recommend, or of course Super Pang. As for this GX4000 version, the graphics are good, nice and detailed again, and the sound, well again the music is really good, better than some 8-bit systems. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this game if you have a GX4000.
By July of 1991, the GX4000 was as good as dead. Retailers were now selling the system at the bargain price of just $29.99, and a year after it hit the market, it was discontinued. With only 15,000 units sold and just 27 games released, despite many more being announced, the console had officially bombed. There are a few explanations for the failure of the GX4000, but the most important, in my opinion, is simple. The truth is, the system was released too late. By 1990, there were already 16-bit computers on the market, like the Atari ST and Commodore Amiga, and with Sega's 16-bit Mega Drive console already released in Japan and just 2 months away in the UK, hype for the next generation was building rapidly, leaving Amstrad's new console looking obsolete from day one. And while it may have garnered some sales from ill-informed parents seeing it as a cheaper alternative to these new systems, it certainly wasn't going to find itself at the top of anyone's Christmas list. Had it been released 2 years or even a year earlier, then things may well have been very different, as there's no denying it's a very capable system when put next to its 8-bit rivals, especially considering the limited market penetration of PC Engine's European equivalent, the TurboGrafx. Another possible explanation comes from the games. As we've discovered time and time again on this show, solid hardware is pointless without solid games to play on it, and the GX4000 had come from a company without games in its blood. As such, it had to rely on third-party releases from UK and French companies like Ocean, US Gold and Titus, many of which were simply ported from Amstrad's computers, often ignoring the extra capabilities of the new console altogether. As a result, gamers had to make a choice. Do I buy a game for £5 or less on cassette tape, or do I buy the same game for up to £30 on cartridge? To make matters worse, when exclusive games did come out for the GX4000 like Copter 271, or games which were at least enhanced over their CPC counterparts like No Exit, they faced manufacturing problems before they could even reach store shelves, as there were issues with duplication, and so cartridge production was a slow process. Of course, it's fair to say that given time, Amstrad would have sped up production, and in time, perhaps a steady stream of great titles would have come out to reinforce the system's market position. But the dawn of the 16-bit console era cruelly snatched that time away and left the GX4000 to be forgotten. Amstrad continued on in the technology market, although they left video games behind until being licensed by Sega in 1993 to produce the Mega PC, a DOS computer with a built-in Mega Drive, which also failed. They went on to produce gadgets such as the emailer phone until being bought by B-Sky B in 2007, for whom they now manufacture set-top boxes. As for the GX4000, there is currently something of a homebrew revival, thanks to the creation of the C4C PC flash cart, allowing games to be loaded to the system from SD card. And the system itself is easy to get hold of, with boxed complete units selling for around £25. However, original games are far rarer than the machines themselves, and will set you back as much as the console, if not more, with rare titles hitting crazy prices on eBay. That's all for today's show, but don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more retro gaming. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, the video you just watched was voted for by fans of the show, so if you'd like to take part in the next vote and help decide what videos I make next, then head over to our Patreon subscription page and find out how you can be involved and take part in the show. Thanks for watching, guys!